Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. This podcast is being sponsored by Get Loopy. On episode 41, you can hear the story of Isabel, the co-founder and CEO. Get Loopy, get a 20% discount off your first order. GetLoopy.com. Take it from the Ironwoman. Today we have again Dafna from Israel on our podcast. We heard from her already in episode 56. When I got to know you, I heard she's a runner and I saw pictures. You ran the half marathon in...
Yeah, I've run a couple of half marathons, all in Israel. So I don't hold a candle to your sporting expertise. It's a hobby and a healthy lifestyle. I grew up not particularly athletic. It wasn't something that girls were particularly encouraged to do. It wasn't something big in my family. And it just wasn't something that was on my agenda at all. I grew up in Israel. I've been in Israel since I was a child. I was born in the States. My parents immigrated. I've been here ever since. I guess the first time I became a little bit aware of fitness was when I went into the army. In Israel, we have compulsory draft. So at age 18, when we graduate high school, we go into the army before we go to college. So I did some running just as basic physical fitness and basic training towards my officer's course. That was during the army. The second time I became aware of the importance of fitness was during my pregnancies. I have 4 children. Spaced around 3 years in between each two of them. They currently range in age 11 to 21. During the pregnancies, I definitely became very aware of the importance of being healthy and being physically active and eating well, both for them and for myself. So each pregnancy, I tried something else. In my first pregnancy, I swam a bit. Nothing serious, nothing very committed. Some of the time I found exercise programs for pregnant women, and then I met other women that we became friends with and had coffee afterwards, which was much more important than the exercise itself.
Sure.
With one of them, it was actually strollers in the park after the babies were born. And I started running when my youngest child was 2.5. And the way it happened was I actually had been nagging my husband, who is a tall man, and he played basketball in high school, and then he forgot about it. And over the years, he sat in academic pursuits. He's a lawyer. He spends most of his time sitting at his desk. And he became this weekend warrior. He would get together with friends, play basketball on a Friday, get injured, go back the next Friday, but that was it. And regular exercise was not part of either of our lifestyles at that point. And I kept nagging him. He put on a little bit of weight, and I kept nagging him, you really need to find something that you can get serious about. And he kept telling me, you know what? When I'm ready, it'll come from me and it'll happen. And he saw a sign for a 10K in the city that he grew up in Israel, one of the suburbs of Tel Aviv. And he thought, I wonder, he was also in the army. He was also an officer. And he said, I wonder, here I am, whatever it was, 20 years after the army, I wonder if I can still run a 10K. And it almost sounded like this bucket list item that he had to check off and get out of his system. And he started training very gradually. I don't remember if at that point he joined a gym because he knew that he needed to do some strength training as well. He did the 10K. It didn't end up being that one. The date didn't work out. He did a different one. And then I thought, okay, he's finished with that. That was just the beginning. So then he started signing up. He discovered the running scene. And he signed up for a 10K here and an 11.5 around a mountain, something that we made a whole family outing out of. And I stood there on the sidelines going, yay, Didi, good for you. By the second event, I was like, wait a minute. I'm not the person who stands on the side and cheers. I'm the one who participates. So, I wasn't spiting him at all. I was very happy for him and I was supportive of him, but I wanted to be in it too. So I challenged myself to start running. I think there was an event at which he did a 10K and I did a 5K. And for a year or 2 or 3, I did 5s and I did 10s. Nothing competitive, nothing very regular, on my own, didn't join a team. The time that I really started loving running was when I found a group of girlfriends that we signed up together for a trail run. We did one of these 24-hour, 24-section 8
Yeah.
runners.
Oh, cool.
So you do 3 non-consecutive sections. You cover 200 kilometers consecutively over the 24 hours, and each person does something like 30. You do something like 3 10Ks non-consecutive. So if you launch on a Thursday morning, then you do, if you're runner number 2, then you do a section, say from 9 to 10 in the morning, and then you have some time to rest and pasta and coffee and hang out with the girlfriends, and you continue moving along because it's a relay. So you continue in the car, and you pick up the next person and drop off the next person, and your next run is at 5 in the evening. And then your next run is 2 in the morning. And you find yourself running in a forest with stick lights hanging from the trees because all these volunteers have set up have you ever been on a trail run?
I mean, like I grew up in Switzerland, so we were always on trails, but I've never heard of a race like this.
Oh, Suzanne, you'd love it. They're amazing. You've got to sign up for one of these once they normalize. Once we can do these again. That's actually, in addition to meeting people, that's the second thing that I'm missing very much. I was supposed to run the half marathon in Jerusalem a couple weeks ago, and 2-3 weeks from now, I was supposed to do this type of trail run with my girlfriends, and it was canceled. So yeah, in Israel, the lockdown has included that we're not allowed, right now the definition is, we're allowed to run within a 500-meter radius of our homes, only 1 or 2 people. They even limited our exercise, which I understand the logic of not wanting it to spread. And thank God in Israel, the lockdown has been effective. We've had very, very few casualties. We're a country of 9 million people. We've lost 200. So people have really been abiding by the rules. I'm a little concerned about what happens when people come out of lockdown, if all at once everybody starts mixing again. Social distancing is not a big thing in such a warm, friendly, hugging, lovey-dovey kind of society. So I'm not quite sure, extended families and everybody's in contact, and I don't know how much longer everybody's going to be well disciplined about this, and when can kids go back to school. But anyway, running has become, so it's been probably 8 or 9 years now that I run at all, and probably 7 years that I've been up to a half marathon. I feel like a half marathon is the right distance for me to challenge myself. I feel like every year I have to work up to it. I've never managed year round to maintain that level of ability. So I feel like it's always a challenge because it's hard for me in the summer to run a lot because I really suffer the heat. But
it's tough when it's hot, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And I always ask, like, how has the running helped you in your business or in your everyday life? It seems like you know that the running needs to be part of your life. So what does running mean to you then?
I'm not sure that in my case there's such a strong connection between my running and my business. It is a good way of maintaining good health, which is certainly important to life, which is important to business, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you do a lot of your work sitting down at a computer, writing content. That's why during my workshops, for example, when I teach people how to present, or I'm working with a client on sharpening their messaging, very often I'll be standing and moving around. And that's another disadvantage of being entirely online as opposed to actually being in the room with people. What else have I learned from running that I could apply to my business? It's probably just the engagement with people, which is why I like the social aspect of running. I like running together with others. So these girlfriends that I do the trail runs with, we've formed this bond, which is very meaningful to us, even when we're not running. The other person that I've taken to running with sometimes, even though his steps are so much larger than mine, is my husband. And sometimes we can make a date of it. Sometimes we can make it an opportunity to hang out together. The one time that we were actually well matched in our running abilities was when he was preparing for a full marathon and I was preparing for a half. He would leave our home first, do his first 13 or 15K. I would drop off the kids at school. I would meet him after he had done 15. I was fresh. And for his second 15, then we were close to the same pace.
That's a good idea.
I like the social aspect of it.
It's interesting. I said like running is kind of like a solitary sport, and somebody, like I said, no, you need to have a support group. And somebody then says, yeah, but you run by yourself in a race. You're your own worst competitor probably. But in a way, you need the support of the people to train for a race. And I always I was part of a group. We met every Saturday. And our motto was whether or not. We were probably the only people in Central Park when it was snowing and raining. But we were there 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's how you have friends for life. And that running is that bond. And I hear that from you, your girlfriends.
Absolutely.
It's about having the coffee after is more important than the running.
And the accountability. What you just described about in any weather, which is exactly part of the magic, apropos, that I think Seth Godin has managed to create within his community, our community of akimbo, of people who have done his fabulous workshops. that's probably the biggest gift of any of them. The notion of being able to form accountability partners or accountability groups, people who care, people who you feel committed to tell whether you shipped, and that you feel like, okay, if we're going to have a conversation next week, I'll let them down if I don't have something to show for my efforts by then. Same thing with running, right? If you set up with a running partner or with a running group that you're definitely going to be there on a Monday at a certain time, you're going to be there because you won't want to let them down, and that helps you not let yourself down. So maybe that's something that's transferable from a running practice of having accountability towards your group members to other professional arenas as well.
So I think it's about the determination. Sometimes we're a little stubborn, right? I think we have to admit that too. And that's what is helping us in difficult times. So I think that's, at least when I coach people or also my students, I think that's what I want to give them as my energy. Like, I don't want to give up. Weather is not a factor. So we even have to go through difficult times when it's raining, when it's cold, or when it's hot. So I don't mind to run in the hot weather, but some people are sweating and it's not cool for them. I think that running is helping us. And the other thing, what I think is like, it's being raw and authentic when you're running. And that's how I also transfer into the business, right? Okay, I'm authentic. I don't have all the answers. And the students can take that from us.
Yeah. Authentic, vulnerable, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be tired, allowing yourself to be human, allowing yourself to need help from someone else. Totally.
Yeah, I think
trying to discover what your limits are, pushing them.
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah. So you give us a lot of insight. And I know in your paragraph that you write for the show notes, you said love and superpower. So how can we create that love and superpower? Maybe you have an example, a cool example that you want to share with the audience.
Regarding a superpower?
Yeah, how you create the superpower. I feel like when you spoke about your engineering students, you providing them the love and the superpower to maybe present or how to be bigger than they think.
Absolutely. I think that the ability to present with clarity and the ability to communicate effectively with your audience is so critical. I always get insulted when people call it a soft skill. There's nothing soft about it. It's part and parcel. It's crucial. It's key. The time that I discovered that I don't just admire people that are doing the actual work. I used to have like this inferiority complex about the professionals that I wrote about their work in public relations positions. I would work with these brilliant doctors and scientists, and it would be they're doing the actual work, saving people's lives, trying to cure cancer, researching all these important things. And all I'm doing is writing about it. And my pivotal moment about it's not just writing about it, it's making it accessible to audiences who could truly benefit from it, was when I wrote a press release. I was the assistant spokesperson of a research university, and I had interviewed one of the doctors, one of the researchers in the medical faculty, about a treatment that he had developed to preserve the fertility of young women who had cancer, who were undergoing this treatment, and very often chemotherapy could negatively impact their fertility. But he found a way that if they also received this treatment, it could preserve their fertility so that, God willing, they would overcome the cancer and then they could get pregnant when they wanted to later on. And I wrote a press release about it, and the media picked it up and published an article about it in a popular daily newspaper. And on that day, I said to myself, my name wasn't on it or anything. That wasn't what it was about. But I said to myself that day, wow, if there's one woman who reads this article, who is undergoing chemo, who requests to have this treatment to preserve her fertility, that's it. My work is done, right?
Wow.
And that just gave me such a sense of accomplishment that the importance of getting your message across could save somebody's life. The importance of getting information into the right hands and before the right eyes is so, so important. So I think that it could be a superpower for any professional who are very, very focused on their professional skill set within their discipline, that if they can become adept and professional and skilled at sharing their work with all different types of audiences, that's win-win all around. It helps them spread their important messages, and it helps all the audiences that they seek to serve with their work. Speaking of Seth and his terminology about who is it that you're looking to serve, right? So who is it that they're looking to serve? Who is it for and what is it for? So if their work is meant to save people's lives, is meant to advance science, is meant to forge meaningful collaborations with people with complementary skill sets, how are they going to recruit the types of partnerships that they're looking for if they can't communicate their messages? So that's why I think that being able to communicate effectively is a superpower, and it is a superpower that I'm trying to help other people develop. And the best news is It's not that either you're born with it or it's hopeless. Maybe that's, you know what, there's my most important running parable. I tell people very often that presentation skills and sharp messaging are a skill set that is learnable, just like running a 10K. It's not that either you're born running a 10K or you're hopeless. It's not that either you're Kipchoge and you're going to win a competition anytime you run it, or it's hopeless and stay home. It's something that if you're willing to learn best practices and then practice and work at it, you will improve. So there's definitely the strongest running parable that I have for messaging, strong messaging and presentation skills.
This is so cool. Thank you so much. So we all know the runners are a little crazy, but we create a superpower and we can give it to other people. Thank you so much.
Hopefully. Really thank you so much.
Always nice to talk to fellow runners and how they transfer that running skills into their business skills. From A to B is the podcast to follow, but also Take It From the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday and every Wednesday. Check in, like us, and send us your messages as well. You can order Take It From the Ironwoman as a book from Amazon, as a paperback, or put it on your Kindle as an e-reader. And coaching and mentoring is also offered. Check on my website. All the information is in the show notes. Thank you. Take It From the Ironwoman. See you next week.